I had the chance to speak with Mark Bradford, Fellow for Persons with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities at the Word on Fire Institute. He stopped by our Washington, D.C. studio to talk about his broad experience advocating for those with disabilities in the Catholic Church, inspired by raising his own son with Down syndrome. Mark, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for the invitation.
All right, you're an advocate for those with disabilities in the Catholic Church. Tell us, what is the state of disability inclusion in the church today?
You know, it's really hard to generalize. There are some places that are doing exceptionally good work. Right across the river in the Diocese of Arlington, Porto Charities is there working within the diocese to provide better opportunities and inclusive education in the Catholic schools, employment and advocacy for people with disabilities in the church. Other places, there are points of light where great things are happening, but again, it's a large country. We have some 190 or 200 dioceses and archdioceses across the country. Some have capacity and resources and some don't. So it's just a matter of trying to expand those resources across the country and get more dioceses, Catholic school systems, big into inclusion in Catholic schools, get more Catholic schools on board with inclusion, and just improve the situation overall.
That's great. And what would you say are the biggest challenges facing the special needs community in the church?
Well, it's a place of welcome, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I often say that over the last 2,000 years, we haven't done a very good job of doing what Jesus asked us to do, and caring for people who are vulnerable, people who have various kinds of differences. For some reason, we don't prioritize those needs, although it was something that clearly Jesus prioritized in his ministry, right? Mm-hmm. But we're always putting our emphasis in other places, and oftentimes people who are living with intellectual or developmental or physical disabilities, mental health issues, don't receive the priority that I think Jesus asked us to give to them.
Yes.
In his words of instruction to us, and that in many places we might have the capacity to do, but just are not doing for whatever reason that might be. The reasons you often hear in inclusive education, I know in Catholic schools, the reasons are, well, we don't have the funding, the finances, we can't do it. We can't hire the personnel that we need. Or we can't provide the professional development that we need in our schools to include people with disabilities in our parish schools. In 1978, the bishops wrote their first pastoral statement on persons with disabilities in the church. And in that, they listed education as a priority. That was 1978. We have an updated document coming out possibly in November this year. We'll see what that says in terms of inclusive education, but we still haven't really managed to find a place of welcome in the church. There are even some places where sacramental access is a bit of a challenge. So I think it's just a matter of understanding. You know, we need to have a greater understanding of what our capacity is. I think reorient the priorities possibly, so that we really bring people with disabilities to be fully included and welcomed in the church where they really feel that they belong.
Mark, you have a new book coming out in September called Indispensable, A Catholic Guide to Welcoming Persons with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Can you tell us about this book?
Yeah, it's a book that I edited for Word on Fire. It will be released September 22nd. It's in our warehouse now. But what it's intended to be is a pastoral resource. So when I conceived of this idea, I think there's so many questions that people have in parishes, and they don't really know how to get started if they're interested in welcoming people with disabilities into their parishes. So I engaged 10 different authors to write in various areas of their expertise. So beautiful introduction to the theology of disability written by Dr. Miguel Romero, who's a theologian that's at St. Louis University. Charlene Catra, who is the executive director of the National Catholic Partnership on Disability, has written a chapter on the Church's documentation with regard to disability. We have a chapter on inclusive education written by Dr. Mike Boyle, who's at St. Louis University. A chapter on relationships and sexuality, which no one is addressing in the midst of complete and total confusion in the secular world, as we know. Written by Mary O'Callahan from Notre Dame. So what we're hoping it will be is a resource that parishes will be able to use to really understand what they need to do to better welcome people and to counsel families. There's a chapter written by Tracy Windsor and Bridget Mora. Tracy was one of the co-founders of Be Not Afraid, so they've written a chapter on counseling families after a prenatal diagnosis. So what it is it's pretty much a comprehensive introduction to the needs of people with disabilities in the church.
Which sounds like it's very needed, and hopefully it'll come out in time, as you mentioned, before this USCCB ruling comes out. Out of curiosity, what do you hope to see in that statement from the USCCB?
You know, the 1978 document was really pretty good. And a lot of it, as I alluded to in the area of Catholic education, really hasn't been accomplished yet. So I think what it should be is really kind of an updating of language, certainly, an updating of the situation in the church. You know, we have so many threats to persons with disabilities now, prenatally and even after birth in the world, that have been brought upon us by advancements in genetic technologies, et cetera. So I think ideally what it will do is just update that 1978 statement. You know, there's so much in the area of disability that is really at the heart of Catholic social teaching, and our concept of the dignity of the human person, certainly, but even more so integral development, integral human development of persons with disabilities. We tend to underplay the capacity. So I'm hoping that it brings those elements to the fore. You know, brings to the fore the challenge of prenatal diagnosis. Now we have the challenges at the end of life with euthanasia, which we have physician-assisted suicide in the U.S. We're not like Canada, we're not like the Netherlands, but we don't know what's around the bend. So I think it needs to raise awareness of those issues, and I believe inclusive Catholic education is the long-term ticket to inclusion of people with disabilities in their parishes, because if kids grow up together, the mystery around disability vanishes into friendship. So we'll see.
You mentioned Catholic social teaching. Pope Leo XIV has spoken a lot on this, and he said little about the protection of life. What do you wish to hear him say or speak to more?
Well, you know, Pope Francis spoke beautifully. He's infinitely quotable. Well, maybe not infinitely, but he's very quotable in the area of disability. He has this beautiful phrase that I use often. He's called disability is a magisterium of fragility, which I think is just so poetic and so evocative of what we can learn from people with disabilities. So I think I think bringing Catholic social teaching, especially the dignity of the human person, the principle of solidarity, the principle of subsidiarity. Let people with disabilities in parishes do what they can. Let's help them discover their gifts. Let's not try to manage everything around them, but bring them into the conversation. Allow them to contribute where they can. So I think all these areas of these principles of Catholic social teaching really apply just really at the kernel, at the heart of what the need for the advancement of the needs for people with disabilities in our parishes and under church.
That's very beautifully said, Mark. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Pleasure. Thank you.